Okay, let's talk through the specialized mission control companion app, which is available for iOS devices and Android devices. When you first launch the app, you'll be presented with a map of the area that you're currently located in. You can zoom in and out of that map as you can with most map apps you'll find on your phones these days. So once your bike's connected, you'll be able to start a ride, and by hitting the start button at the bottom of the screen, you'll be immediately presented with some information about your bike, speed, battery level, and the motor assist level at the bottom at the moment, showing 100% and 55% respectively. Once you've done this, pushing the bottom right hand side of the screen logo, which is some bars with the arrow across the top of it, will present you with information screen. There are 3 of these you can swipe from left to right, and they're all editable in that you can change the information presented on them, so you can customize 3 screens. I've edited the 3rd screen to my favourite pieces of information, which are the motor power, how much watts the motor's putting out, the rider power, how much power I'm putting in, the travel mode select box where you can change the power level between the 3 settings, and the battery percent, the all important battery percent level I should say, and the current time, so that I know how long I've got left before people start nagging me to come home. It is completely user definable, so if you hit the edit button in the top right hand side, you can change these boxes, move them around and change them to whatever suits your fancy. So you've got time since you started, for example, your current speed, average power usage, calories burnt, and the things that I've selected such as rider power, motor power, elevation, etc, etc. So, and you can change all 3 screens in any layout that you want. Going back to the map screen, which of course you can use as a GPS if you want to, clicking on the little cog wheel in the middle of the map there, you can select Smart Control, and this allows the app to adjust the power level on the fly that the bike gives you, if you like, so that you can complete the distance that you've set in navigation. So it basically means that you won't run out of battery. It means that you will be locked into whatever power setting the app thinks is appropriate. I've never personally used this because I tend to leave the bike in the top power level because it's more than enough range for what I do. But you know, it's there if you're perhaps going on a longer ride and you want to get from A to B without running out of battery, which you don't really want to do with this bike because it's quite a heavy bike to pedal around onto your own steam. Clicking the top left icon, which is the settings icon, brings up the power adjustment bar, so you can change the power that's output in the different modes, the max motor current, the acceleration response, whether you want that sort of more subdued and gradual, whether you want it full on straight away. And you can adjust those on the fly, which is good. You can also adjust these when you're not riding, providing you're still connected to the bike as well, so you can adjust those before you go on a ride if you don't want to take the app with you. And of course, clicking stop at the bottom stops your ride. You can save it, upload it to Strava, e-bike specific, remember, so you don't get accused of cheating, or delete it if you want. And of course it's going to save that and map your route in the same way that a GPS device would. And then you have a history as well. You can see the history of your rides, and it saves quite a lot of data: power used, rider power, average consumption, elevation, things like that, and a history of your rides as well. But I'm going to delete that one because I didn't go anywhere. Hitting the top left icon, and when you're not riding, or when you've not got the app set to ride mode, will bring up your settings menu or settings bar, and this allows you to tune the bike, like I just said, when you're not riding it, providing you're connected, of course. It also gives you a history of your rides, and gives you an idea of how much money you might have saved for using a bike rather than, or a bicycle rather than a car, and also how many trees you saved by not outputting quite so much CO2 as a car. Again, you can tune the bike power levels as you can when you're in the ride mode. You can turn the battery beeper on and off, for example, and a couple of minor settings there as well, and restore the default settings if you've messed it right up. Diagnosis gives you a breakdown of the battery and motor health, firmware and things like that. As you can see, currently I've got 100% battery health because I look after it. How much miles you've done on that particular battery, although mine's not accurate because it was reset when it went in for some repair work. It gives you temperature of the motor, temperature of the battery, and also the firmware. Mine needs updating, so that's for a future vlog, for both the battery and the motor. And there are some interesting changes apparently that they've made on the later firmware, on the latest firmware with the motor. So that could be interesting. You can also download a data file which you can send to your service centre to diagnose problems. I've never had to do that, but it's interesting that it's there. And then of course you've got your basic settings. You can change the units that are displayed depending on what part of the world you're in. You can change the bike, which bike you have connected if you have more than one bike, or you change the bike, and you can of course connect the bike and disconnect the bike and log out, things like that. You do need to have an account with Specialized. It's free, but you are of course, for the Tin Hat Brigade, giving away a little bit of personal information to do that. And overall I would say it's quite a handy little app to have, if for nothing more than to give you a bit of information about how well your battery's doing in terms of its health, and of course what firmware you're in, so you know you're up to date, or if you're not up to date, things like that. Personally, the functions that are available within the app from a GPS and a navigation point of view, pretty much you're going to find, you know, you've got on your standard GPS devices anyway. I don't like the idea of putting a really expensive smartphone on my handlebars, so I'm using an iPod Touch at the moment, which doesn't have GPS, so my GPS isn't really working within the app. Fortunately, I have a GPS device, which if you've seen my previous vlog, you'll know about. And of course, you know, check that out because you can see what other tech I'm using as well at the moment. What does come into its own though is the adjustability of the various power settings. Now I tend to leave mine in the default, which is 20%, 50% and 100% for the different modes respectively, because that's just how I've got used to it. I know some people do boost up the trail mode a little bit to sort of 60-70%, and some people boost it right down, or drop it down rather than boost it down to 30-40%, and eco down to sort of 5% really, literally just to give them a tiny bit of assistance. But it's horses for courses, and what I would suggest is you experiment and see what works for you. And that's a unique to Specialized. Certainly in the early days of e-biking, other manufacturers are coming on song now and introducing their own apps. And a lot of the e-bikes launched this year have companion apps. So it's going to be interesting to see how these apps and how connectivity evolves with e-bikes. It's not just about the adjustability. I like the idea of being able to diagnose and service bikes over the internet. I think that is really useful. Saves you the hassle of taking the bike to the bike shop, getting it checked, being without the bike for a period of time. If they can diagnose a problem, particularly with the drivetrain, and then order the parts and things like that, and then fix it sort of on the day you drop it in. That's a real convenient feature. But I've not seen how anybody's using that yet. Certainly not in my country, the UK. Maybe again that's something that they're going to develop over time. Anyway, that was a quick overview of the Specialized Mission Control companion app. If you've got any questions, as ever, post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And thanks for watching.